Greetings, children of the screen. Your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here, and welcome to the 1-year anniversary of my YouTube channel. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you a layout of all the things that I'm going to be doing in this live stream, and then I'm going to kind of give people a chance to show up, and then we'll go ahead and launch directly into it. So, basically what I'm going to be doing, originally I was going to be doing a live video reaction to my first video. But as I was trying to get the setup for it going, like there was all kinds of audio problems and stuff. So I think I might just be doing that as a separate video if it's actually interesting enough to actually do it. So in its place, I'm going to be doing like a quick unboxing of this awesome little Hero World figures that I had never seen or heard of before. But when I was at Target today, I saw them. They're Target exclusives. So I'll be opening that up. Then we will also be taking a minute to talk about the 2 new imprints coming out of DC, which are geared towards young readers. These ones towards, readers ages 8 through 12, and then these are 12 and up. And then also I will be giving you guys kind of a brief layout of all the things that I'm going to be doing here in the future and what my set or semi-set schedule is going to be moving forward. So I'll go ahead and jump into, first off, let's do the unboxing while we're waiting on a few more people to show up. How about that? I did not bring a knife or anything, so hopefully this opens pretty well. But yeah, here we got Joker and Lex Luthor, which is awesome because I have action figures of both these characters in those outfits, and they've got nice little bases with it. Or actually, they're attached to little bases, I believe. So I should be able to display these little guys with their bigger counterparts. Wow, these are actually really, really cool. Like, I'm used to getting the little mini DC, I think they call them chess figures sculpts, which are kind of made of pewter stuff, I believe. And but I'll be honest, on them, while the sculpts are decent-ish, 9 times out of 10 on them, the paint jobs are atrocious. And these guys look pretty good. Give me 1 sec. I'm actually going to have to get something to cut because these don't twist off. Okay, here we go. So yeah, now when I went, I saw that they did have a pack that had, it was like the whole Justice League for the most part. It had Flash. I think they got it on the back of the packaging here. Yeah, it's got Flash, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. But it was a little bit out of the price range of what I was able to spend today. This was only about $7 for this pack that's got these 2 figures in it. So let's see about getting these out of here. All right, that's pretty dope. I will give you guys a closer look. Just let me get Lex in his power suit out of here. Oh, he might not have the little plastic thingies, does he? There we go. There comes Lex. Yeah. Let's take a look at these. So first off, we got our Joker here. Here, let me get see. Check that out. Not too bad. It's Killing Joke costume for the most part, just minus the trench coat. It's got the nice little revolver there, which is pretty dope. And again, the sculpt on it is relatively good. I really like the paint job and the articulation on the face. Or not articulation, I'm sorry, the detail, basically. He's got eyeshadow, and I really love the oversized, uber creepy, the man who smiles grin. And then let's take a look at Lex. Wow, his hand is freaking huge. But you can see on these, it's kind of like the Ninja Turtles from Nickelodeon. Their forearms and their legs are extremely large. Kind of just like the kind of cartoony design that they're going for with it, you can see. But all in all, again, the sculpt is really nice. The paint job is really great. And one of the things that I really like is Joker's got some green there. And Lex has got several shades of green, and none of those shades are the same as are on the Joker figure. With figures like this, it'd be really easy to go as cheap as possible and just do the same green all the way across. Even on Lex, you could just kind of do kind of an off tone for one, where you're really just diluting the main paint or something. But no, they really kind of go all out. The sculpts are nice. The paint jobs are nice. I really like the way the characters are depicted. Again, for $7, that's pretty awesome. It's definitely better than the DC, the DC chess figures that they put out, which are about the same size. If I had one real close, I would grab it. But yeah, on those, like I said, the paint job is always atrocious. The sculpts are always just kind of so-so. But, you know, these are really awesome. So next, what I'm going to be doing, like I said, I'm going to be foregoing doing the live reaction video because I was having all kinds of audio quality problems and stuff. So what I'm going to do first is jump into what my schedule is going to be moving forward, because as you all know, I recently got some new equipment and I've been trying some new things out. And I basically have a new idea, or not a new idea, but I actually have a plan, because to be honest, like a year ago when I started this channel, or actually I started a little bit before that, but even then I spent like months not knowing what to do. And if you go back and you watch that first video, which I think only has like 38 views, and understandably so, like it's on God Country, and it was just the fact that, like, at the time when I did that video, I was living in my truck out of the parking lot of the comic book store that I work at. And so pretty much I would get off work and I would just spend all day in the unheated, air conditioning back room reading comics. And like I finally finished God Country, or not even finished it. It was only like halfway done, I think. And like at that point I already had the channel, but I didn't have the means to do anything. And I was just like, you know what? I don't see enough people talking about this book. So I just need to talk about this book. So I did it. And then I just kind of kept doing things here and there, not really with a plan or thinking that I would ever get any real subscribers or any kind of following or anything like that, you know? And again, like, that's not really why I was doing it. Previous to that, like, I had a long time working in like indie film, and like I'm really interested in filmmaking, and that's what I wanted to do. And just being able to shoot something and put it out there where it's like, you know, a part of me and I get to like express a part of myself, like that was it's been really useful to me. It's been really helpful, and it just makes me, you know, puts me at ease, because in a way, even though I'm not doing like filmmaking, the kind of thing that I really love to do, it is still kind of an extension of that, and I get to talk about things that I love or things that irritate me. But again, I didn't have a plan. So I'm kind of, now that I've got the new equipment and I have a little stronger idea about what I want to do, I'm instituting a new plan for the channel in terms of what I'm going to do with it, and I'm going to be trying to move it towards something more like a regular channel. So as you've seen, like if you've been watching the Quick Thoughts videos, I now have a new format and structure for those Quick Thought videos that helps me keep them at 5 to 6 minutes. I'd like to keep them all under 5 minutes, but they'll now be going like 5-6 minutes. And anything longer than that will not be a Quick Thoughts video, because beyond 5 or 6 minutes, it's not very quick now, is it? So yeah, anyway, little things like that. And then I'm going to be introducing more kind of scripted content and more kind of content that's not directly related to the newest comic book out. It's more just me talking about things that I love, or things that would be interesting, or gripes that I have. So anyway, let's go ahead. This is what the new Nerd Scum channel schedule will be, more or less. Keep in mind that, like, if some of these shows that I have in mind, or some of the placements on the schedule don't hold, or it's not getting a big enough response, I might rearrange things, or I might cancel things and try different things. But from moving forward, for the time being, this is what's going to be going down. I apologize as I mind my notes. So weekly videos. For the weekly videos, we will still be getting the, every Monday, it's What You Mean You Ain't Seen, which is the video series where I show a movie or TV or something like that to people who've never seen it before, or sometimes I'm the person who hasn't seen it, and then we just kind of discuss it and talk about it, and I do the video. Here lately, we've been kind of doing some really fun older stuff, and here in the future, I plan to do a lot more comic book TV pilots. So we're going to be doing X-Men the Animated Series, the pilot for it, The Night of the Sentinels. We're also going to be doing the pilot for the 1970s live-action Spider-Man TV show, and the live-action Swamp Thing show, and the animated Swamp Thing show. Among other things, we'll also be doing Pride of the X-Men, the canceled X-Men pilot from the 80s, where Wolverine is depicted as an Australian character, which of course is funny because Hugh Jackman is Australian and he's played the character for like the last decade. Anyway, among those, other than those things, we're also going to be covering a few of things that I brought out here to show everybody. So True Detectives, the first episode. Velvet Goldmine, which if you're not familiar with it, is kind of an unauthorized biopic on David Bowie, with Ewan McGregor and Christian Bale and just like all kinds of other awesome actors. And it's just like a glam rock biopic, like weird music video experiment. It's awesome. We're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing tusks on What You Mean You Ain't Seen. I don't know if they're, I mean, I've shown Bree and Old Man Logan some shit, but I don't know if they're ready for this. But the whole point is that we're working our way up towards something really hard to deal with in terms of a movie, and I'm slowly building them up to that. So next we're gonna have Nightbreed here pretty soon. Darkman by Sam Raimi, that one will be hopefully coming out before too much longer, as well as one of the very soon approaching ones will be Walking Tall. And I'm not talking that Dwayne The Rock Johnson frickin' Kevin Sorbo bullshit. Like, this is the original 1970s Walking Tall. Okay, we're gonna do at least the first one, if not more, and then things like Hatchet and stuff like that. And then of course the real reason that we're doing all of this, what we're building up to, is for me to completely scar them for life with Cannibal Holocaust at some point. I'm a monster. I know. I'm a fucking monster. So that's What You Mean You Ain't Seen, which is every Monday. All right. So then back on with the rest of the schedule after that little sidetrack. So then Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'll have between 2 and 4 quick thoughts videos, which again are videos that are under 5 minutes, where I talk about a comic that just came out that week most of the time, or maybe a pilot, or like not a pilot, but a TV show. Like I might do one for the new season of Luke Cage or something like that. But I'll have 2 to 4 of those coming out in a week, depending on how busy I am that week and what all else I have going on. So then we have the monthly videos, and right now I just have 1 in that slot, and as I develop some more of the other videos, eventually some of them will become monthly videos. So right now for the monthly videos, what we have are the Nerd Needs, which is the new segment or the new series that I just started. We got about 3 episodes out, and the next one will be coming on the first Friday of next month. It'll be the first Friday of every month. So then, excuse me guys, I need to take a drink real quick. Dr. Pepper in Texas, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, then we have the bi-monthly videos. So every other month, one of these will come out. So Comics Burnout, which I've been talking about for a while, and I finally got my scripts ready, and I'm getting ready to shoot the pilot here in the next couple of weeks, which is going to basically be a show about a total burnout pothead guy who is a generally nice guy and wants good things for everybody, but he's a freaking moron burnout, and he loves comics, but he kind of misunderstands everything about them, and his misunderstandings make him love those things more, and it causes him to really have... Anyway, you'll see what happens. He's just a befuddled buffoon of a character, and I can't wait to jump into that. Then also bi-monthly, we will have blooper reels coming out now that I have the ability to do that again. And also with the blooper reels, guys, I know that the last one I put out being about 4 minutes, it was a little too long. So I'm going to try to keep those blooper reels down to about 2.5, 3 minutes tops at the very most. You know what I'm saying? So then we're going to have just sporadic videos. And again, these are videos that eventually, if they pick up enough steam, I will end up doing them as monthly or bi-monthly videos. So we have Reactor Meltdown. If you go and you look back through my videos, you'll actually see that there was one of the Reactor Meltdown videos that I did before my old equipment crapped out on me, where I'm a character named Ricky Reactor, and it's basically a critique, or not a critique, it's a satire. It's a spoof on trailer reaction videos and reaction videos in general. And it's just me kind of taking the piss out of those kind of videos. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to have those coming out again pretty soon. I got the scripts for the first couple going. But it's also one of those things where with that kind of show, it really works better if I'm doing it to something that's new or something that's just recently come out, you know? If it's like for a trailer or for a movie or something like that that's still in theaters, or like the trailer just came out a day or 2 ago, that's I think it's much more funny if it's more timely. But that means that I have to write those scripts on the fly and really jump into it. So yeah, so that's the Reactor Meltdowns. Also in the sporadic section, it'll be an unpopular opinion, which is just a video where I give my opinions that are going to make people really angry at me probably, but it's things that I believe, where most often I'm not going to bring it up in a nerd conversation just because I don't want to start any crap. But in these videos, I'm just going to lay it all out. All the things that I think that everyone will hate about comics and movies and just nerd culture in general. Then also sporadically I'll have the unboxings, and furthermore I'll have videos where it's from my collection, where I'll just feature a few things from my collection and kind of talk to you guys about them and where I got them and what they cost and why they're important to me and why I still have them, because I tend to rotate through my stuff quite a bit, you know. Oh, nice. Got some new guys popping up. What up, guys? Sorry, with my setup, I can't really engage with the chat, but I'm going to be doing like the Q&A and a little bit more engaging with everyone here after I do the next couple little bits. Thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate it. So then other than from the collection, the next thing that'll be a sporadic video that if I can get enough of the scripts done, I'm going to turn it into a monthly video, which is the Batman I Believe In, which literally is just a series where I talk about Batman and my beliefs of Batman and like what in my mind makes Batman interesting or a cool character or makes him important to me. Or sometimes things that, like, you know, I don't like about what's going on with the current character. I think my first The Batman I Believe In video will be discussing Tom King's Batman, and I think I should have that out in the next week or so. I'm hoping to have it come out right around the same time as Batman number 50 by Tom King. Even though I'd kind of prefer my first video on it to be something positive, but we'll see how that works out, won't we? So then I have the other shows that I have are in development. They're things that I am working on the scripts for. I'm figuring out what the budgets would be. I'm figuring out how many new people I'm going to have to bring into the, like, include in the Nerd Scum team in order to execute those shows. Because I have a few people that I've been talking to who are really interested in cosplay and stuff like that, and I think it'd be cool to bring them into the channel, not only as actors in front of the camera, but as people who could potentially do videos on building cosplay costumes and stuff like that. Just another way of kind of diversifying and expanding my channel. Because, and again, some of the ideas that I am having moving forward that I'm trying to develop will be things like that. For example, one of the videos I'm developing now, and I'm kind of figuring out how to shoot, is why I don't Let's Play, which will probably end up being a bi-monthly video, if anything, where I'm just going to be basically spending a couple hours playing games, video games, which I suck at hardcore, and then I will be compiling a video made out of my best failures in the game, and that series will be called Why I Don't Let's Play. Beyond that, kind of the rest of them that are in development now are very much more scripted and script heavy. So they're, yeah, anyway, they're still comics focused, but they're more narrative and kind of just comedic bits. So one of them is called Comic Zone, and basically Comic Zone will be a series in which I retell the weirdest stories from both inside and behind the comic book pages. So some of them will be like me telling a surmised humorous version of Spider-Man One More Day, you know, pointing out why it's dumb and why, and all that kind of stuff. And then sometimes it'll be me telling behind the scenes stories of like how stories came to be, like the story of how it was decided that Wolverine didn't have adamantium covered bones, or didn't have, like, originally Wolverine didn't have the adamantium at all, like the gloves just had weapons on them, and then after that he had an adamantium skeleton. But then as they moved into Fatal Attractions, he had to fight Magneto, and that's when they devised the idea that, oh no, he's got bones that are laced, that's covered with adamantium. And the story of how that came to be, and then like all the things that came after were with Wolverine going feral and losing his nose and living in the woods and all that stuff. I have a scripted episode about that and how that all came to be. So that'll be Comic Zone, and again, it'll kind of be set up in the same format as like the Twilight Zone, except much condensed. I'm hoping that each episode will be somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes long. The next one I have is a Spider-Man series that I'm working on titling. It'll probably only actually be 3 shorts, but it's kind of a satirical take on what I think about like the last decade in Spider-Man's history, and kind of a broader view of what's been going on in comics in that same time, kind of metatextually told through those Spider-Man stories. The first one will probably be entitled Sad Spider-Man, because I think we've seen, not just over the last 10 years, you know, Spider-Man's another one of those characters like Daredevil who, like, his stories persist by him being shit on. So there's a lot to work with there. And then the final one, the hardest one that I'm trying to develop right now, is called Post-Popocalypse. The apocalypse is the idea that like all of us know more about pop culture and like TV shows and movies and books than we know about like how to actually survive. And like, yeah, this series is essentially about people like that after the actual apocalypse, where you'll see like tropes and cliches of post-apocalyptic movies and TV shows, but with nerd humor injected, and seeing people who are completely unsuited to surviving in that, and like an unrealistic depiction, obviously, but like how they would react in those situations. So hopefully that'll be pretty entertaining. And I'm starting to script those, but those are actually like the most cinematic, and I'm gonna have to actually upgrade and get a new camera to shoot them. But yeah, those are the things that are in development and that I hope to kind of have coming out, hopefully like within the next 5 to 6 months, those last 3. But for the rest of those, that schedule that I just outlined, that will be going into effect. So like just a brief summary before I move into the next thing of what that schedule will be. So weekly videos, Monday, What You Mean You Ain't Seen. Wednesday and Thursday then will be my Quick Thoughts videos, between 2 and 4 Quick Thoughts videos. I'm also considering doing a live stream pull list video every Wednesday. Guys, let me know down in the comments if y'all like that idea, and it involves no editing, so I might end up doing that anyway. Anyway, so then monthly is Nerd Needs, bi-monthly is Comics Burnout and Blooper Reels. Then the sporadic videos are Reactor Meltdowns with Ricky Reactor, Unpopular Opinion, the unboxings, the From My Collection, the Batman I Believe In, and that is like the essential schedule. Like I said, a lot of those sporadic ones are basically when I have the time or I have a good idea for an episode. But anyway, I'm going to real quick check and see what people are saying, because again, I apologize if you're just tuning in. Like with my setup, it's a little hard for me to see the comments from over here. So let me see what's up. Nice. Comics Boom, what up, man? And Invisible or Invader. Oh, Invader Matt. Hey guys, what's going on? Nice of you guys to stop by. Yeah, I'm really excited for Unpopular Opinion as well. And one of the other ideas that I kind of had with both Unpopular Opinion and Nerd Needs is the idea of creating a show that is a platform for me to discuss the things I like, but it's also a concept for a show that could transcend my channel. So that way, like in the future, if other YouTubers liked the concept and the setup and the format enough that they wanted to do their own versions, and then we could like share the video amongst our channel or something like that, or have a slightly different version of it on each channel. That's kind of one of the other things that I built into those, because I thought that one of the things that I'm also trying to do when I create these new shows is shows that have a potential to expand or to bring in guests, so that hopefully I can reach out to a larger audience. You know what I'm saying? Oh, thank you. I work really hard on the Crow videos. I want to be doing a lot more of the Crow videos. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, and they don't get a whole lot of views. I know that like the core fan base love them to death, and I love the Crow, even like when the book or like whatever's going on with it isn't great. I love talking about it and engaging about it. So there'll definitely be more coming out as soon as Crow Memento Mori finishes and I have like the full collection. I've been reading them as they come out, but a lot of other guys have been doing videos on the single issues, so I just figured I'd wait till the whole book is done, and then I'll be covering that. And obviously, I'll be covering any new kind of info that we get on the Crow reboots coming up. And no, unfortunately, I haven't met James O'Barr. I know that he hangs out in Dallas a lot now because he kind of lives in the area, and that's not that far from me. I not long ago got a new car, and like once I get my financials a little bit more settled, it's hard to resist the temptation to like scoot on down to Dallas and just like hang out all the places that I think he might go, because people say he just goes and hangs out in comic book shops and like sketches and chills and stuff. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if you found him like in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in some of the museums around there, because that's how he spent a lot of his time as a kid, was in museums drawing. And Dallas, in their art museum, they have some pretty interesting stuff that comes through there from time to time. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, I'm willing to bet if I were just to go to the like museum up there and hang out for like a week every day, I'm pretty sure I'd see him at some point, you know. But yeah, anyway, I am going to come back to a little Q&A thing at the end here. Although right now I kind of want to, again, it's a little hard for me since it's my first live stream that I've hosted from the channel. So my setup's not perfect. I'm hoping to work on that when I start doing more live videos. Sorry, drink. But real quick, I wanted to talk about these two new imprints. These two new imprints that DC is going to be coming out with. I believe they're coming out next year, like early next year. I think that's the idea. And again, like I was saying, this one, the DC Zoom, is for readers ages 8 to 12. And then this one is for ages 13 and up, the DC Ink. And we got these previews at the store, and I went ahead and read through them. So let's talk about them for a minute. So let's start off, and some of these I might do more extensive videos, so we're not going to go totally into it, because some of these are worth talking about in longer depth than I'm going to go into here. But let's start off with the DC Zoom. I'm going to talk about it in very broad strokes, and I apologize, I didn't memorize any of this stuff, so I'm just going to be kind of looking through here as I go. But yeah, so in this one, you've got excerpts from Super Sons, The Polar Shield, which I was really super excited for, because you guys watch the channel, you know I freaking love Super Sons. Then we got Superhero Girls Spaced Out, and then you got Batman Overdrive, and then you got Black Canary Ignite. And those are the excerpts in here. And so let's see. The first one was by Ridley Pearson and Eily Gonzalez, and that's the Super Sons one. You know, okay, so like, again, I'm going to probably do a more in-depth video on all this, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But the art is more or less acceptable, except for a few like misstepped panels or a few misstepped drawings and stuff. But in general, it looks pretty good. The story, it's not really poorly written, but this is a Super Sons story. It's out of continuity. So in this story, Damian and John don't know each other yet, and Lois doesn't know that Batman and Bruce Wayne are the same person, and various things like that. And on top of that, you have to get 8 pages in before you ever see one of the two Super Sons. And then in the entire thing that they show us here, there's one panel of action of a little girl like throwing a chair through a window and jumping out. And that's the only action that you get in it. So, you know, that's definitely not what I'm thinking of when I think of Super Sons, the book. Mind you, this isn't for me. This is for younger readers, and that's fine. They are setting up a new main character who's going to be integral to the team or to the plot of the story. So I imagine that she's like your introduction character. But the things I'm talking about in this book that seem a little weird or off, we're going to get to in a minute in a bigger way. So, because again, you know, I'm not going to go through all the artists and stuff, because again, I'm going to just do a longer video on this, like a separate dedicated video to this. I think now that I'm talking about it, it feels like that's something that maybe I should do. I will get, yeah, Comics Boom, great question. I will get to the if I think there's a market for it here in just a minute. And yeah, so anyway, real quick, just going through the other things that are in here. So once you get past that, then what you have is a DC Superhero Girls story, which is pretty much in keeping with all the stuff we've seen from them before, which again, not for me, but also harmless. And a lot of them are actually pretty decent for like the age group that they're trying to reach and the demographic they're trying to do. So I've got, you know, no problems with that. Next one we get into is the Batman Overdrive. Now, this one I take a few issues with, but in general, let me just say that the story is not bad at all. Again, it's an out-of-continuity story, and it feels very much modeled after kind of the universe of Gotham, the TV show, but it's not that universe. Like, character interactions and the way people know each other and stuff are very, very different. But anyway, like, the artwork in it is fine. It's very caricature-ish, despite being black and white, as you see here. But obviously the character model for Bruce Wayne is clearly taken from the kid from the Gotham TV show. But yeah, this one was like, it was okay. The art's fine. The writing's fine. It's out of continuity. I do have one big issue with this story. In this, it depicts Bruce Wayne in karate class getting his butt kicked. And then later on, as like a child, he goes out and fights muggers. Like, mind you, they're teenage muggers, but still he fights muggers. And he doesn't have he doesn't have anything he needs. Because this is being marketed to ages 8 through 12, I don't like that. I don't think that's good or positive. Like, it the book gives the impression that anyone without any special training or anything, or being a Batman, like just a kid, can go out and stop crimes and everything's going to be okay. And I think that's a little irresponsible. If this were in the other series, in the Ink series, and the kid were a little older, like 13, I think that that would be a really great idea for a story in a book, and it still might be. It's a little early to tell, but that was a little weird, I have to admit. Then we get a Black Canary story where she's in a band and her dad comes home, and we establish that it's, you know, Officer Lance, although he's drawn exactly like Commissioner Gordon, but kind of in a manga Gordon style. So that's really weird. I guess only all the cops in like DC Comics must look like Commissioner Gordon. But yeah, so nothing necessarily wrong with any of these in general, but they and the books in here have one major thing in common. It's kind of what Comics Boom was asking. Do I think there's a market for these? I definitely do think there's a market for these. Let me discuss some of the things in this before I get to my main point, which is pretty much about what will these do? Will these serve the function that they're hoping they will serve, which is not only find a new market, but find a new market that then can expand into the normal comic buying market. So yeah, this one, again, very briefly, because some of these I'm probably going to do more things on. There's a Mara story, well drawn, well written, out of continuity. It's in its own universe. Have no real complaints with it. Some people will. There's some things in there that might trigger some people, but in general, I think a lot of that's going to be people reading into it more than it really is. Then we have the Catwoman story where we get a new origin for Catwoman, and it's very pedestrian. It's very relatable. And if they're trying to go for like a teenage girl market, I totally get it. And here's the truth of the matter. While like this is not, as I was reading this, I was like, this is not Catwoman. Like, well, no, it's not Catwoman that I know. It's an alternate Catwoman, and it's written for a specific audience. The audience this book is written for will probably enjoy it because it's very well done for what it is. I will absolutely give it that. And then we move into, even though, again, like, there is a lot of politics stuff going on in particularly the Ink book. Not so much in this one, although there is a bit of identity politics stuff in here, but I think it is handled very well because, again, for you guys who haven't heard me do the spiel, like, in general, I'm a pretty liberal person. Like, I'm not political at all. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican or a liberal or a conservative or any of that stuff, but I tend to be kind of more of a liberal, progressive person. Like, I do think that, like, it's important to have representation in comics. I just expect it to be good and not to be pandering or patronizing. That's my biggest issue right there. And most of these do it pretty well. They do it pretty well, but I know it's going to trigger some people, and that I get it. But in general, for the kind of books they're doing, these are done pretty well. There's also a Raven story, and it is the exact same thing, where it's very TV show-esque. It's very minimal. It's also very relatable in some ways, although they do implement a freaking amnesia plot device, which is so tired, even for the age demographic that this book is trying to reach. But again, the artwork in it looks more indie, but that's fine. It looks more accessible to a younger reader. In that respect, it really works, and I'm interested to see what they do with it, despite there being a couple of things in it I'm not crazy about. Then you get to the Harley Quinn story in it, that is done by Steve Plug, however you do it, and Mariko Tamaki. And again, this story is really boring, but the artwork in it, it's Steve Plug. Look at it. It's beautiful. The artwork, and I'm absolutely going to buy this book, if only for the artwork, because it is beautiful and amazing. Having said that, the story in this little preview was boring as all hell. We saw a couple of things happen, but even the things that happened didn't really make a lot of sense. And as this is the last story in the book, I'm going to jump to the point of it now. And the point of it is that, like, these are alternate takes on these characters, but most of them are so far removed from anything that represents the essence of those characters that you could literally put any other title on it. Any of the books in here, except for maybe the Raven book, you could put any other title on it, change the character's name, and it would work still, because it's not actually about that character. It's just a story built around the concept of that character's name. Again, that doesn't necessarily make them bad stories, but in terms of, is there a market for it? There's absolutely a market for these. These are relatively well done. They're well thought out. The editing on them is pretty strong. I don't know if some of the black and white ones will end up in color or if they're going to stay in this format, but either way, like, these will definitely have a market. However, if you're looking to bring in new, younger readers and set them up as established readers who will like branch out into the main continuity, this is really alienating to them, because eventually, let's say that like they're reading the Batman story in this, and then they want to jump over into like regular Batman. The only thing in this that still is the same seemingly is his parents being killed. Like, so then if this is their first version of Batman, this is what they're going to like. And then when they try to jump into the other, they're going to be like, well, that's not for me. That's not what I want. Which you could keep this going forever, yeah. But all I'm saying is, if you're looking for ways to, like, especially and also in this one, man, like, if this is your introduction to Catwoman, and there's been lots of different versions of Catwoman, okay? But if this is your first introduction to Catwoman, Catwoman as she appears in any other comic is going to feel completely alien. If this is your introduction to Harley Quinn and you try reading any Harley Quinn comic, you're not going to feel like you're reading the same character, because you're not. You're absolutely not. So I do think there's a market for it, and I think that it's a really great idea, and I think the books in of themselves could do really well and actually be interesting, good stories, but I don't think that they're going to be the intro for the like potential growth that DC was hoping to get out of it. Sorry, guys, I'm going to look at some of y'all's comments now. Right on. Yeah, his the Plugarch in the Supergirl stuff is really, really good. Red Hood and the Outlaws. Yeah, that's a book that's real. There's going to be an unpopular opinion video on Red Hood. So while I will say the Red Hood and the Outlaws book has been the best use of Red Hood I've seen in a really long time, it's a really well drawn and well written book, there'll be a video that addresses that at some time. So, but no, I feel you. It has been good. I would not deny that. Let's see. Do you think that the initially putting identity politics in comic book stories is a good idea in light of the ongoing Comicsgate controversy? Let's see. I think that, well, here's the thing. For me personally, like, some of my favorite books that are out right now is I read Saga religiously. I love Saga. I really like Rat Queens. There's a lot of books that I really like Mother Panic. There's a lot of books I really like that a lot of people would classify as SJW books because they have identity politics in them, or they have like the different political aspects, racial connotations, or things like that. And like, I will say, again, I don't really consider those books to be that. Because here's the thing. For me, a book that is like, when those things are used poorly, when it's used as a way to basically exploit a demographic that does not feel like they're being properly represented or represented at all, that's really the truth of the matter. Is it's the same thing that's been going on with Christian movies for a while, which is a totally different thing. But those movies only exist because there's a demographic out there who feel as if, and in truth, they aren't represented as much as everyone else. And because of that, they're willing to gravitate towards anything that gives them that. It's why we get such god-awful Christian movies that make plenty of money, so they just keep getting made. And it's the same reason we keep getting soapbox comics. I don't mind politics in a comic in general. Again, like, Marvel has done politics for a long time in comics, but the main thing about the politics and the way they did it is it was always told as allegory. It was always told through, and it was always focused in on character development, character point of view. So a good example in like the X-Men and stuff is like, again, it's a hard thing to discuss, but in truth, I don't have a problem with there being more minorities, with there being more gay characters. Originally, when Iceman was announced as gay, when I just thought it was the younger Bobby Drake from the alternate timeline, I was fine with it. And even when I found out it was both of them, I was like, okay, well, let's see what they do. Because in like DC's Earth 2, the remake version of it, everyone's really pissed that they made Alan Scott gay, but I really love what they did with that character and that story. I think it was well developed. It was a good character. It was a good story. So I didn't mind. As long as you use it and you use the opportunity of representation to tell a story that, because that's the thing, that's what's actually going to help, is if you tell a good story that anyone can relate to, a story that is so relatable that it breaks down the barriers between like sexualities or genders or races. Like that's the kind of story that actually helps change people's minds. Look back to the old like Green Arrow, Green Lantern team up books, like all of the older political comics. That was the point of them. Modern day political comics are more about, let me take your favorite character and then spend 30 pages with nothing happening, with me preaching at you, because that's what's good for you. And that, while there are people out there who are looking for an outlet for, you know, not just an outlet, but for people who are legitimately, I'm not going to say that there's underrepresentation, but for people who aren't represented as highly as the mainstream majority, like there's always going to be people out there, and they're always going to gravitate towards the books that say that they're trying to be inclusive to them. Most of the books I see that are doing right now are more exploiting. They know it's a market. They know they can make a little money, so they hire cheap talent to put out cheap books because they know that their profit margins won't be very big because the demographic's not that large. And that sucks. That really sucks. Again, like that's kind of my basic idea on it. Again, like I want things to be progressive, but I want it to be told through a story. Like stories have the ability to change people's hearts. That's absolutely true. But in order for that to happen, you have to number one, you have to be telling that story from, you can tell it from a place of anger, but you also have to be telling it from a place of love, like a place of where like you're trying to put forward a positive change. And you also have to tell a good story, because if it's a garbage story, you're never going to have the effect that you want to have. And unfortunately, especially over in Marvel, a lot of the more politically driven books just don't have good creative teams on them. Sorry, guys, I'm looking here now. I haven't had a chance to check out Lady Killer from Dark Horse. I've heard a lot of mixed things about it, but I'm so far behind at this point. I might look into getting the first volume and seeing what I think, though. Let's see. The Catwoman Inc. book, again, like when I was reading it, I was really into it. So that could be cool. Or if you're talking about like the new Catwoman book, hell yeah. I'm about to drop Tom King's Batman like a bad habit and just start reading the Catwoman book that's being put out, because the artwork for it looks absolutely fabulous. Let's see what's up here. But yeah, anyway, guys, yeah, that was the majority of what I really had planned to talk about and stuff. So at this point, I'm going to reconfigure my camera just a little bit. And if y'all give me just 1 minute, I'm going to come back and reconfigure the camera, and then we can go into like a full Q&A or something. Sorry, just give me 1 second to move things around a little bit so I can see the computer screen a little better. Poor planning on my part. Okay, let's see here. Whoa. Okay, yeah, here we go. Now I can see that a little bit better. Let's see. What do we got going here? So let's see. Do I like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac or Scud? I haven't actually checked out Scud. So I'm not sure about that one. I do like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I'm not as crazy about it as some people were. I am a big Invader Zim fan. And I have like the collector's director's cut editions of the Johnny the Homicidal Maniac in hardback. So yeah, I do really enjoy it. But I'm not like a super fan like I am with The Crow or like some other people are with Johnny. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm in the process of reconfiguring things so that I can have the Cowboy Bebop up. And just in general, I'm about to start getting rid of more posters so that I have room for more figures. I never get rid of a poster, really. I just put it in a box under my bed. So, you know. But yeah, you know, single guy in his 30s. I'm not trying to impress anybody, apparently, you know. Yeah, actually, I have a bit of Rick and Morty stuff over there. I got a couple of action figures, and I've got the Meeseeks box game where, like, it actually. Let me grab it. I don't. 1 second. But yeah, I've also got like my Evil Morty pop and a couple other things. But yeah, check this out. So yeah, it's a board, or not a board game, but a game, more of a card game. Comes in a Meeseeks box, and then
Look at me.
You hear that?
Oh, I'm Mr. Meeseeks. Look at me. Existence is pain to a Meeseeks, Jerry, and we will do anything to alleviate that pain. Just us.
I've only played this game once. I mostly just got it to have this box that does that. You know, let's see. What's my most valuable comic? And what's the most underrated comic at the moment? I think the most underrated comic at the moment is the Pumpkinhead book that's being put out by I think Antarctic Press. One of those. Oh, I'm blanking on it. But yeah, the Pumpkinhead comic book. If you like horror comics and stuff, that book has just been amazingly cool and awesome. I've been loving that book, so I definitely think that one's been a bit underrated. And what's the most valuable comic that I have? That's hard to say. In truth, I don't have a whole lot of super valuable comics. I've got a signed copy of Doomsday Clock, the first issue, the variant, signed by Gary Frank. Or no, I can't even remember now. And I got a Dark Knight's Metal #1 Midnight variant signed by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. So those are probably the two most valuable ones I have, and they're pretty new. In terms of older stuff, I've got like a mint condition first appearance of Sabretooth and like Wolverine, whatever. It's like the one where he just shows up on Wolverine's birthday and beats the shit out of him for the first time. But even that one's not that expensive. Like even that one's only really worth probably at most like $25 or something. So yeah, I haven't put a whole lot of money into the individual collecting like key expensive issues. But I got a few here and there. But most of the ones I do have are kind of like within probably probably nothing more than like $50 of value, maybe 75, maybe something like that. You know, I have a lot more like action figures and stuff like that that are much more valuable. Let's see. The biggest celebrity I ever met. First comic I ever read. Wow, that's a lot of stuff, man. Okay. Most overrated comic. I don't even know about the most overrated comic that's coming out right now. I really don't know. Just because like it's so subjective, you know, like a lot of the books that I don't like that other people like, it's like I get why they like them. It's just not for me. So it's hard to say the most overrated comic. That might be something that I think about and address later. The first comic book I ever read, you know what? Like, I feel like it's hard to say because there were always comics around when I was a kid, but probably like the first memory I have of really reading a comic was probably a Batman book during the Nightfall series. Because it was Azrael Batman with all the like, I remember my dad saying, "Look at this Batman, he's cool." And as a kid, I was like, "That's not Batman. Doesn't look that cool." But that was also the same weekend that my dad gave me my first comic that like I took home with me, and he got me like two things, and it was like a run of the current X-Men book that was out at the time, and then he got me like they were reprinting the first issue of X-Men back in like a collector's series back then, and he got that for me. I'm not sure which one of those came first in terms of like books I had or that like I had access to that I went over through many times, but it would definitely be like one of those three, I would say, in terms of like my first comic. Biggest celebrity I ever met. That's I don't know. That's hard to say. Because I've met a few like between doing like my filmmaking stuff and living in oh my god, okay. It's that time now. Let me look at some of these others. Okay, so here's the deal with the celebrity thing. I've met a few different celebrities, like some of them just by happenstance. Once at the movie theater, when I worked at a movie theater in College Station, like Chuck Norris came in all the time, and it was around the time 310 to Yuma was out, and I just ended up having like a 10-minute conversation with Chuck Norris about the movie. That was kind of cool, which was also weird because I'd actually met Chuck Norris before when I was a little kid when my stepfather was a limo driver just for like a second. So that was really weird. And then like living in Austin, I ran into a couple of people, and also like I did some short film, or not short films, but I did some films, and I was like at a few film festivals. So like I got to meet people in passing, you know. Like I got to meet like several of the people from Rocky Horror Picture Show, and like a lot of the cast members from Walking Dead, and Danny Trejo, and Twiggy Ramirez from freaking Marilyn Manson, and Chris Marquette from like Fanboys and Girl Next Door and stuff like that. Doug Bradley, who plays Pinhead, that was really cool. But the most embarrassing celebrity that I like, the most embarrassing moment of me meeting a celebrity would have to be Robert Rodriguez when I lived in Austin. And that's why I got all flustered a second ago, because I don't think I've ever told this story on the channel, and I guess this is as good a time as any to go into it. I did not get the chance to meet Tim Curry. That was unfortunate. I'm blanking. I know the actors and actresses in that movie, but it was Columbia and Magenta, and also at one time separately I met Meatloaf very briefly. That's another story for another time. But yeah, so Robert Rodriguez, when I lived in Austin and I worked at Bee Cave, okay? Bee Cave is like a very wealthy area in Austin, and I worked at the Barnes and Nobles there. And one day I'm working with like my friend who works there, and Robert Rodriguez walks in. And again, like I'm a filmmaker from Texas, and like even though I don't love all of Robert Rodriguez's movies, like he's one of my few people I would consider to be like a hero in terms of the way he makes films, doing things himself and taking chances and taking risks and just kind of not giving a fuck and doing things just because that's what he wants to do. You got to respect that as a filmmaker, and especially an indie filmmaker. So like fucking Robert Rodriguez walks in. I'd look at my friend who I'm working with, I'm like, that's fucking Robert Rodriguez. He's like, no, it's not. And so we got into an argument. I was like, yes, it is. Fucking, you think I don't know what Robert Rodriguez looks like? And I'm normally the kind of person, like, if I see a celebrity in public, I'm not going to go up and talk to them. Like, especially, like, if they're doing an official thing, yes. But, like, if I see, like, a celebrity eating dinner or, like, just walking down the street with, like, their kid or, like, I'm not going to bother them. They're out trying to be a fucking person. Like, no. Like, that's not cool, you know? But this dude got me so pissed off by his insinuation that I didn't know who Robert Rodriguez was. And it was right around the time Machete came out, so there was like this little wall in between the music department where we were and the rest of the store, and we could see him. And I just raised my head up and I go, Machete rocks! And then I ducked down and I looked up at my friend. He's like, he's looking over here. He's coming over here. He's coming over here, dude. And I was like, oh, shit. Because at this time, I just said the first thing that came to my mind. I hadn't seen Machete yet. Hadn't done it. So fucking Robert Rodriguez comes over and starts talking to us. And my friend's like, hey, man, tell him you're a filmmaker. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, but I'm trying to, because, like, again, like, I'm not trying to, like, pimp my shit to Robert Rodriguez while he was there. I'm already feel bad because, like, he was just trying to buy a fucking graphic novel. And, like, but again, like, he's a nice guy in general. And, like, he came over to talk to us and wanted to know what our favorite thing about the movie was and stuff. And so I all of a sudden had this moment where Robert Rodriguez was asking me that my favorite thing about Machete, because I said Machete rocks. And in my head, there's this little thing happening where it's like, just lie and say the awesome Die Hard intestine scene that's in the trailer. Because even if that's in the trailer, that probably will be your favorite thing in the movie, which it fucking was. And then there's this other little voice in my head, because I hate lying, that was like, don't you fucking lie to Robert Rodriguez. And what came out of my mouth was, I'm sorry, honestly, I haven't seen it. Now, I did actually literally have tickets on me to go see the movie after work that night, and I told him that. But at the moment when I said, I'm sorry, I haven't actually seen it, that was just the first thing that came into my head. Like, he lost about 50% of the interest. And from that point on, he was very nice, but he was trying to get out of the conversation. Now, that wouldn't be so bad. Me just looking like an asshole to Robert Rodriguez. So yeah, you'd think that would be like the worst. It'd be over with, except because again, he's Robert Rodriguez. Like, for him, that has to happen all the time. Like, he just moves on with his life. Like, he's never going to remember me, right? Right? About a week later, I'm walking down Bee Cave, heading to like the car park, and like Robert Rodriguez is walking the same way, and like we make eye contact for a second, and I just kind of look down and keep walking, and when I look back up, he slipped into like a little alley down there in between the buildings, and like I kind of sped up and I looked, and he was gone. Robert Rodriguez did a fucking Batman, and I was just like, did Robert Rodriguez just do a ninja vanish to get away from me? I think he did. So yeah, you know, I could be overreacting. Maybe he just saw me make eye contact and he didn't want to be bothered, so, and he's used to that kind of shit. Or maybe he remembered me and thought, oh God, that's that jackass from the bookstore. So yeah, while that's not the biggest celebrity I've ever met, I would say that is my biggest meeting with a celebrity, because I was a total and complete moron in front of Robert Rodriguez. So yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I am a Manson fan. Which is why I was so stoked to get the picture with Twiggy, and obviously, like, I'm not as big a fan as I used to be. But I've even like consistently liked his albums that he's had coming out. Like, obviously, I don't like them as much as I used to, but I'm also not as much into music as I used to be. But one of the things I want from an artist is like continued growth or exploration or experimentation. And he's definitely given us a good bit of that. And even while I haven't loved all of his whole albums, I would say that every album at least had one or two songs on it that were worth me, checking out. So anyway, yeah. Let's see. Let me scroll back here, see if there's any questions I missed. I'm still trying to figure out the most overrated comic at the moment. I'm not 100% sure. Most overrated comic at the moment. If I have, oh man, no. That's not cool. It's not cool. It's not. Yeah, I really don't know. Like, at least in my area, most of the comics that suck, people just don't read them. Like, there's very few books that, like, I really... Even the books that, like, I don't think that are great that are selling, no one's talking about them. I made very clear in my video my thoughts on the new Plastic Man first issue. But I kind of get the feeling that whenever I read the second issue, it'll probably even out a little bit more, because I've adjusted my expectations. Because the first book, like, while I really didn't like it, I was really disappointed. It wasn't bad. It was just not at all what I wanted. So I'm hoping that, like, with the next book, now that I've adjusted my expectations to it, I will hopefully just be along for the ride. Because again, it's a Plastic Man book, and just like with the Etrigan the Demon book, that recently came out, the one where they just decided that, like, oh, Etrigan doesn't have to rhyme. He just rhymes when he feels like it, even though he's from a cast of demons called... I bought all of those issues, and I read it because I love Etrigan, and I just don't get very much Etrigan the Demon. So I was going to check it out. And Plastic Man will probably be the same. So I don't want to say that Plastic Man is the most overrated book out right now, because actually there's a lot of other books that are probably way worse that people are talking a lot about. I don't know, though. let's see. Right on. So Invader Matt said he met James O'Barr twice, and he was a really nice guy. And if I ever meet him, it'd be a lot. Yeah, I imagine so. Like from everybody I've ever met who's talked to James O'Barr in person, is like he was just kind of the nicest, gentlest dude you ever met. And I personally like. Again, he hasn't done like this. He doesn't have the same body of work as a lot of other artists. Or comic book creators, but I definitely think that like he deserves more recognition than he gets for the work that he's done. But yeah, it's on my list of like, you know, I was talking to someone the other day about like there are certain people that are like creators in comics or movies and stuff that like if I never got to like, you know, I like Doug Bradley's one of them who played Pinhead for most of the movies. Like that's someone who if I hadn't met him and got his autograph and stuff, I would have been really bummed out when he passes, you know. But and James O'Barr is another one where like that's someone who I need to meet. I just have to put forth the effort. Let's see. And yeah, I mean, like I'm sure that there are some comic books that are super overrated, but I'll be honest, like there was a time when I first started working at the comic book shop where I read every book that came through our door. Every single one. All of them. All. And it was exhausting. And I'm really now getting, especially now that I've started trying to like do other stuff in the channel that's not as new comic book focused, my pull list has been way reduced. Whereas like even like a couple of months ago, my pull list per week was probably 25, sometimes 40 books. In the last couple of weeks now, my pull list has been 20 books tops, you know? So yeah. And in truth, like if I had to pick like a book that, see, like the most of the books that I can think of where I was like, oh yeah, that's not nearly as good as people are saying. Most of them aren't coming out anymore. So like when that whole Avengers No Surrender thing was happening, like people really liked that. I couldn't care less. I felt that book was highly overrated, especially with that whole first issue. I couldn't get around the fact that they were basically shoehorning in a gender swap Sentry and just calling her something else, but she had the Sentry's origin in terms of like all the universe forgetting her, and she had the same color scheme and everything. And then they were like, yeah, you're the one who actually started the Avengers and all that stuff. And then like, yeah, they brought like there was some cool stuff in it, and I only read a few issues, but like I feel that that one was highly overrated. Yeah. In terms of stuff going on right now, I can't really think of it, but that's probably just because most of the book, like if there's a book I'm not interested in, I just don't read it. And I'll check it out later on if I get a chance to. I just have too much other stuff going on at this point. So yeah, a lot of those books that are highly rated that I don't think probably are very good, I haven't read them. So that's why I don't really have that opinion right now. Again, if I were to like actually like take the time to figure out like, okay, well, what are the most popular books out right now that I don't think I would like and go read them, then like, yeah, I could probably have a better opinion on what's the most overrated book. But the fact that I'm not interested in those books when I go into it, that's going to skew my opinion like way far. And so like, again, I try to be as biased as possible in my videos, or at least let people know when I know that a particular thing is like swaying me, a personal issue is swaying me. I try to make that very clear because I'm usually aware of it, you know? So that's why for me, it's kind of hard to pick like what the best or like the most overrated comic coming out right now is. Let's see. Oh, with Neil Adams? That doesn't surprise me. Like Neil Adams has put in some really great quality work, but like the guy also seems a little unhinged. So, you know, I don't know. Did y'all read his Dead Man book? Holy shit, right? That book was fucking insanity. I think me and Logan are going to do a video on that book at some point. And I'm trying to scrounge up Batman Odyssey for him to read. Because, yeah, oh my God, that fucking Dead Man book was just pure insanity. God. Like, although, like, they had that cool cover where, like, when you first pick it up, it's, like, dead man being afraid of a cloud or steam or something. You're like, what the hell is that? And then like if you happen, then you open the page and there's like a tiger just on a blank page. You're like, what the fuck is going on with this? But if you hold it up to the light and look at the front of the cover, it looks like the tiger's jumping through the mist and dead man's afraid of it, but he's still dead. I don't know. It was a crazy fucking book. He started like turning people into balloons and popping them. I don't know. It was fucking weird. Anyway. So anyway, guys, yeah, I'm going to be wrapping it up here in a minute, but if you guys have any other last questions or anything real quick, I'm probably going to wrap it up here in about 5 minutes, but I'll give you all a second, see if there's anything else you want me to go into. It's getting pretty late over here on my end, and I have to work in the morning. You know, let's see. It doesn't really look like got anything new coming up. I'll give it another moment or so. But yeah, so yeah, guys, let me know down in the comments also, like once I post this video on YouTube and stuff, which of those shows I outlined seemed most interesting to you, or if there was anything that you think I should be covering or something like that. Let's see. So another one from Invader Man 616, or I'm sorry, Invader Matt 616. My bad. Do I like Static Shock? I don't dislike Static Shock. I was always more of like a classic punk rock guy, and there are definitely some metal bands that I like. Static Shock, I have no problem with them, and like I've never disliked them, and I think I've even seen them live once before, but they just never had like a huge effect on me. While most of my friends were listening to like Static Shock, I was already like mainlining to Iggy Pop, so and the Velvet Underground. I was kind of on another trip in every way possible. So yeah, I don't have any issues with Static Shock. I think that they're you know, like I don't have a real informed opinion. I haven't listened to every album or every song of theirs, but like I dig what I've heard, and like I've heard like I think maybe at least their first album and maybe first 2 albums full. But yeah, I don't really have like a real stout opinion one way or another for the kind of like simplistic hardcore stuff they do. I think that they do very well, and I don't necessarily have any issues with it. You know, it's cool kind of party metal stuff, you know. I read like the first issue of the Jeepers Creepers comic, and then I checked out the second issue, and I think I just flipped through it and then gave up. Just because, like, I don't know why, but the artwork in the Jeepers Creepers book was way too inconsistent for me for the price point they were asking for it. Which like normally there's that artist has done other things that I did actually really enjoy. And that was the main reason I was getting the book to start. Well, that and the fact that like, you know, I dig that franchise. So like, all creator shenanigans and properness aside, like in general, I find those movies relatively fun, even though I haven't watched the third one. I'm waiting for it to hit Netflix or whatever, because they're still at Walmart. They still have it for like $12 for that thing. And I'm like, no. I don't think so. So yeah, anyway, guys, I think I'm going to be calling it a night now. I still got a lot to do. I have to go film some more stuff for videos coming up in the future tonight before I can crash, and so much more to do. So I'm going to be taking off for the night. Thank you guys for stopping by. It has been 1 year since the upload of my first video, and I would not still be doing it if all you guys out there hadn't actually kind of stuck around and shown that like some people are interested in what I say, because like again, as I've said many times, you guys give me an outlet for all my thoughts and stuff, and like in truth I'm just some asshole. I'm just another asshole, you know. So like, thank you guys for sticking around and giving me a forum and an outlet and like a place to vent sometimes and to express my thoughts and my feelings. It has meant a lot to me over the last year, and hopefully here in the next year of the channel I will be upping the ante and giving you higher quality higher quality content and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Right on, guys. Sorry, also my roommates are now home and things are starting to get loud. So yeah, I'm going to sign off, guys. But please, yeah, if you're watching this video after the live stream, please give a like and share it with some friends. And if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe and hit that little bell so you can get updates on all the dope content I'll have coming out in the future. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'll make sure that the links for that are in the description below. Right on, children of the screen. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a good one. Nerd Scum out.